Colorado Buffaloes did it. They went into Lubbock, Texas, and walked away with some tortillas and, more importantly, a huge win.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Let's talk about it. The Buffs went into a very, very hostile environment, and not only did they win, but they made another statement. And it's really weird to keep saying that Colorado keeps making statements, but they do. They went down early, right? The first quarter was Texas Tech. I honestly was getting those thoughts where that Texas Tech first quarter felt very similar to the Nebraska first quarter, where I was like, okay, the offense is not doing anything. Okay, the defense is giving up big plays. And so Texas Tech scores 13 unanswered first quarter points, and a lot of things were going wrong. There was botched snaps, and there was just Shedeur Sanders was missing Travis Hunter. Like, nothing was going right. And it was like, okay, this is not great, right? Well, Colorado goes on to score 10 points in the second, 21 in the third, and then 10 in the fourth. Meanwhile, Texas Tech only scored 2 more touchdowns the rest of the game. And so there was a huge sort of momentum shift there. I know a lot of people, when I was tweeting about the game, a lot of people were saying that the refs were influencing the game. Listen, and this goes for everyone, right? This goes for any game in any sport of any generation. If you are in a position to where the refs are deciding whether or not you are going to win the game, you probably are not going to win that game, right? You cannot be in a position where one moment, one play impacts how you win the game. Now, am I going to pretend like certain calls don't impact games? No, they don't. But, or I'm not saying, no, I'm not. But with that being said, Texas Tech can't go, you can't allow Colorado to score pretty much 31 points to your 7 in the second and third quarters. Like, you can't be outscored 31-7 in the second and third quarter and expect to win, or be outscored 41 to 14 in the second through fourth quarter and expect to win. Like, that just is not going to work for any team in any sport, really. So let's talk about what I liked. For starters, I like the resilience, right? I think this is a type of game where, and I've said this a few times this year, but this is the type of game where Colorado loses this last year, where I think Texas Tech starts out hot, the crowd gets rowdy, and Colorado sort of is like, okay, we just got punched in the mouth, and we have to sort of like hope and pray that this is going to be, that we're going to bounce back. No, this Colorado team, you could tell they were calm, cool, collected throughout the entire thing. And it was obvious that they, even when they were down, they felt like they were going to come back. And I feel like that's the biggest difference. Shedeur Sanders, really good performance. I don't want to say it was his best performance because he's had better, but 30 of 43, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was really good. But realistically, the reason that Colorado won this game was the defense. The defense gave the offense enough time to sort of figure out what the hell was going wrong, right? Robert Livingston's unit was able to shut down Taj Brooks, who he finished with 137 yards, which, I mean, that's still, I mean, a large amount for a running back. But obviously, Taj Brooks is the type of guy who, if you look at what he's done in each of the past few games, he has sort of prided him, or the Texas Tech offense has made it so he pretty much carries them to victory in each of the past few games. This was the lowest amount of yards per rush that he's had since the team's week 3 win against Arizona State when he had 4.3. Since their loss 2 weeks ago against TCU. He had 31 carries for 137 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. He was just not as much as a factor as they would have liked him to be. We got to sort of understand that the Texas Tech offense wanted to run through Taj Brooks, and Colorado made it so they couldn't. I think, honestly, he had a long 25-yard rush that really like boosted his numbers, but the Colorado defense, I mean, was just absolutely nails. They they held Texas Tech to, which I mean, Colorado's offense wasn't very good on third down either, but Texas Tech was 9 of 19 on third down, which is 47%. They were 1 of 4 on fourth down. Very aggressive team, but obviously couldn't get it done. And then also there was big play after big play. Colorado had 6 sacks on the day. They had a fumble recovery and they had an interception. They were 14 turnovers. And I think that was also the difference, right? They were taking away possessions. And it was just one of those things where it's a weird situation where Texas Tech had more yards than Colorado's offense did. But at the same time, I was trustworthy of the Colorado defense pretty much the entire time to make a big play, right? Especially after the first half. Like they were just absolutely locking it down. So huge win for Colorado. I'm going to talk about what's next and who stood out to me throughout the game, because I do think, and you guys comment below who your standouts were, so that way I could make sure to give everybody credit. I do think that we had a variety of standouts. Usually it's the Shador Sanders, Travis Hunters of the world. Before I move on, I will say this is the most disconnected those two have looked, I think, in their time in Boulder, right? Travis was yelling at Shador earlier in the game. There was an overthrow. There was an underthrow. Travis dropped one. Like they just weren't on the same page today, which is really rare for those two. I'm not going to read into it because it's literally never happened before like this. I just think it was one of those rare occurrences where it's like, damn, we did not get the best out of Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter. And guess what? They still won. Like this is in summary, and I'll end on this note for this segment. Colorado won by 2 touchdowns, right? They won 41-27. For our mathematicians out there, that's 14 points. I think that first half performance was Colorado's worst since the Nebraska game, and they still won by double digits. So this Colorado team is trending at the right time, and they're trending upward. And that's all you could ask, because things around the country are starting to fall into place. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, we got to talk about our standouts. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at LinkedIn. If you or your business are looking to hire someone, LinkedIn is the perfect place to do it. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why I have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role in any given month. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking on the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and tune in every single day because we got you covered here. Let's talk about it. It's the stars of the game time. And I think the most obvious one that for me is Cash Cleveland. And you're probably like, what? Right. The walk-on backup center who came in, replaced Hank Zelinkas, who I don't know what's been going on with Hank lately, but he just has not been on his A game. He's been botching snaps. He's been snapping it when Shador's not ready. And I think it's happened in the last at least 3 games where we're seeing a snap that's hitting Shador in the thigh or the chest or something. And he's like mid adjustment. Like he's like looking at the defense. He's looking around. All of a sudden the ball is hitting him. Like there's clearly a disconnect there. And I don't know what's wrong with Hank, and maybe he can move somewhere else across the line, or maybe they'll trust him again further down the line. But Cash Cleveland, walk-on center from IMG, comes in. I think he's a fan favorite regardless. I know he's a Coach Prime favorite for sure. Comes in, getting big pushes on a lot of runs, some pass protection instances. He was getting some big pushes as well. And I think when the PFF grades come out, I'll be interested to see how well he did. I think he did pretty solid from someone who wasn't probably expecting to play nearly the entire game. So star number 1 has to go to Cash Cleveland. Star number 2, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. I think you have to go with Amari McNeil. He had 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, and he had a big stop in the red zone when they went for it on fourth down. He tied up I think it was Taz Brooks too, tied up the running back and prevented them from scoring. And that was kind of one of the daggers for Colorado. And so Amari McNeil, you have to give him props as well, because he's one of those guys who transfers in last year, doesn't really have the biggest impact last year, but sort of sticks around and he sticks around, and even with guys like Shane Cokes returning, Chidozie Nwankwo, Anquin Barnes, Quincy Wiggins, and all these guys who are joining on the defensive front, Ryan Buell, like he sticks around, sticks it out, and he's making monster plays for the Colorado Buffaloes. Like I think that was a huge, huge success, a testament to the development that we've sort of seen across this defensive front. And I thought he played really well. Nikhai Hill-Green had a huge interception. Honestly, I had never seen a catch like that. It literally looked like the ball was like magnetic to his hand. Like it looked like he had a magnet in his hand because he just stuck that paw up there and caught it. It was a big, big, big play by Nikhai Hill-Green, and he's popping those pads, as we all know. Let's swing over to the offense to give you guys an offensive standout, because I mean we always got to give the offense some love, right? I think you have to look at a guy like Will Sheppard. He's been a standout for me a couple times this season, but to keep seeing his improvement, to keep seeing his, like, I want to say, how many weeks ago was the Baylor game? Like 4 or 5 weeks ago, right? Where I'll count on my phone right now. You guys keep commenting. What's up, everybody? Appreciate all you guys. So the Baylor game was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games ago now. And there was people calling for Will Sheppard to be bumped out of the rotation. There was people saying, get Will Sheppard out of here. I even said that there's a chance that he might fall out of the rotation because of lack of trust from Shedeur Sanders or the staff. And not only has he proven me wrong, he's proven all the doubters wrong. And he comes up with another big one-handed catch. LeJounte Wester, another standout. I think LeJounte's touchdown to open up the game for Colorado was, in a way, the turning point, because they needed to feel that success. They needed to sort of get the crowd off their backs, because the crowd, especially in a lot of these Big 12 stadiums, the crowds are really close to the bench. And so, I mean, Colorado, we've seen it there. You go to a game there and you're on top of the bench. If you're next to it, when it gets loud in those stadiums, regardless of, like, it doesn't have to hold 100,000 people to get loud. Like, I think, let me see how many people were in attendance of this Colorado game. There was a little over 60,000 people in attendance. That stadium was buzzing. And so Colorado needed that stadium to shut up for a second. And so LeJounte Wester's touchdown at the beginning of the game was a huge one. And then I also got to give props to Jordan Seaton. I think he had a couple big blocks. One of them was on the Travis Hunter touchdown. He had some really big moments. He was setting the edge. He was really doing a lot of things for this Colorado team. Now let's do a couple of standouts that you don't want to stand out. These are bad standouts. We'll put it this way. Standout number 1, game management. I tweeted this. Colorado burnt 2 timeouts. They had 1 timeout remaining with over 9 minutes left in the third quarter. So luckily for Colorado, they were able to tighten it up on offense and defense, and didn't come down to needing timeouts like the Kansas State game did, where if they had a timeout, maybe they win that game, right? So they blow 2 timeouts, and then they blow that third timeout just because Texas Tech breaks off a huge run. And I don't know if it was a substitution thing, not sure. But yeah, the game management wasn't there. The penalties were atrocious. This Colorado team continues to struggle. Even though, like, watching this game, I honestly thought that Texas Tech had more penalties. Like, it just felt like that, because obviously you're watching it from the perspective of Texas Tech. It's a home game, so you hear their crowd, and the announcers were talking about a lot. Colorado had 14 penalties for 106 yards. That is not good. They were penalties where it was roughing the passer that saved a drive. It was DJ McKinney taunting, right? It was Cameron Craig taunting, which DJ McKinney's could have been costly, right? He taunted. It would have been 4th down. They would have had to settle for a field goal or a long 4th down conversion. Instead, they got a 1st down and a chance to basically cut the lead down. So that was costly. There was holding, offsides. There was every defensive holding. There was everything, right? And illegal substitution. And I don't understand. I've never seen a team with this many issues with substitutions defensively, right? You could sub if the offense subs. Offensively, if you sub, the defense can sub. Shedeur Sanders was furious with the ref, and clearly he doesn't understand, or didn't understand the rule at the moment, where it's like, if you guys sub off a receiver late, the other team has a chance to sub players on and off. And so what they're going to do is have 3 400-pound linemen trot on and off the field and get you a delay a game. And so this Colorado team just had some untimely mistakes, and I didn't like that. I didn't love the slow start. Not that you want to start slow, but Colorado has been plagued by slow starts all season long, and luckily they're very much a team that once they get hot, they're hot. But when things are getting risky and dicey down the stretch here, of the final few weeks of the season, you don't want to be starting down 13 points, right? Because you're going to eventually, there's going to be a day where you start down 14 or 13 or 10 or whatever, and you're just unable to catch up. And that would be a dreadful way for your season to end, because you know how important it is to start off strong. And I've yet to see it from this Colorado team. Well, I'm not going to say yet to see it. I've yet to see them do it consistently. How about that? I've yet to see them start off consistently on offense or defense. And then another thing that I didn't like simply was the lack of run game for the longest time. I know they ran the ball, which, I mean, my stat still holds true. Colorado is now 17-0 when they are 17-0, excuse me. They are now 7-0 when they run the ball 14 or more times in a game, which is great. But I didn't love how they abandoned the run. Isaiah Gustav, 10 carries for 32 yards. Obviously, they weren't getting much out of the run game there, but he ran the ball twice in the first quarter, 3 times in the second, and then he didn't touch the ball again, or he didn't run the ball again until there was 5 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the third quarter. And then same thing with Dallin Hayden. I still don't see it with Dallin Hayden. I still don't really see the appeal. He had 1 carry in the first quarter, a couple in the second, and then he had an early carry in the third quarter. So they had 2 carries. I just don't like how they consistently abandon the run. I would like to see them figure out ways to use it more. And it's just one of those things where you have to at least show the threat that you're going to run. And I don't think they did a good enough job with that today. So those are my standouts. Alejandro Mato, also need to give him a shout out. 2 for 2 on field goals, 5 for 5 on extra points. Nailed it. Mark Fassett, not the best punting game from him. I think that's probably his worst punting game as a Buff, which is rare because I genuinely think he's one of the best punters in the country. So I was not expecting to see a game like that from him. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about what's next for Colorado, because they can make the college football playoff. The stars are aligning, but what is next? What do they need to do, and what has happened around the country? This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Robinhood. Let me tell you about Robinhood Gold. You don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial flavors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth, and these generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. And let me tell you about FanDuel. They got a really good deal that you guys all should go check out. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's talk about what's next for Colorado. First of all, they control their destiny now more than they ever have. They are currently sitting in second place in the Big 12 because Iowa State lost to Kansas. And not only did they lose, they were boat race. They lost 45-36, and honestly, it was not that close. Kansas led by as many as it was 38-13 in the third quarter. And then Iowa State sort of had a little bit of a comeback coming on, but Kansas pretty much was locking it down for the most part. here's the thing. Great news, right? Colorado's in second place. They control their destiny. They still have to handle business. BYU is playing Utah tonight. After I record this, BYU plays at 10:15 Eastern time. So if you're on the East Coast, stay up late for that one. And if they lose to Utah, Colorado will jump right into. Colorado has a chance to jump into first place in the conference. So there's that. Realistically, Colorado just has to win out. And I think this Texas Tech game was the toughest remaining on their schedule. It seems like Kansas is sort of heating up right now, but Utah is very manageable. Kansas, I think, is still manageable, and Oklahoma State's very manageable. Around the country, here's some other things that helped Colorado out. Some top teams, a top team lost today. Georgia lost, Miami lost, and obviously Iowa State lost. Washington State still has to play. Clemson didn't look very good. So Colorado is going to continue to slide up the rankings. All they have to do is control what they can control. And who knows what can happen, right? Who knows where this Colorado team can go if given the opportunity. I think there's a bright future ahead of them. I really think that I predicted this on Thursday with Philip Dukes, who's with Well Off Media now, and we talked about it. And I said, I think Colorado can win their final 4 games. And right now they're 1-for-1. Let's see if they can keep it up. The Buffs have everything they want to achieve in front of them. They can make the Big 12 title. They can make it to the college football playoff if they win the Big 12 title. And I think we just all have to give our flowers to Coach Prime and applaud the efforts and work that he's put in with this program. I appreciate you guys for tuning in for this live recap of the game, and I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Make sure to follow me, like this podcast, subscribe, give me 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And let's continue to grow this community because we're going to have a really fun last 3 weeks of the regular season for the Colorado Buffaloes. I hope all of you guys have a great Saturday night, and I will see you guys on Monday.